Hi everyone, welcome back to this channel. This video is about programming paradigms. So there are other programming paradigms, but I'm going to cover the three most popular, which are procedural, object-oriented programming, and functional. So first, a definition on procedural programming. It's kind of hard to give a basic definition of this, but what this is uses a set of instructions in a clear logical sequence, uses functions, loops, local and global variables. It's normally very simple and easy to see control flow. So the program we're going to write here in all three is write a program that takes a group of numbers, adds them all together, and displays the total and the average number. So this is the implementation in procedural programming. It looks a little complicated because we're using a string builder. I'll explain that a bit later. But first of all, we create the number array. So we're going to add these numbers together. And then we loop through, adding to the total. And then here what we're doing is what I want to do is simply just say the numbers 1, 9, 2, 4, 2, the list of numbers equals the total, and then show the average. So I'm just creating a string builder, which is an efficient way to add multiple strings together. And then we just print the output at the end. So the output is simply this. This is the output. So the sum of all these numbers is 42, and the average is 4. So what I'll do now is I'll extract some functions to make this a bit more readable. So for example, this part we can extract into its own function. So we can move this up and create a function calculate total. And then here we can say total equals calculate total. And then this big block of string builder, we can simply extract that as well. So we create output. And then here we put create output. And now the main function looks a lot cleaner and just simple. So some people might confuse this because we're kind of using separate functions, right? Isn't this functional programming? It's not at all. It's still procedural because we have a list of instructions. We do this list of instructions. We do this list of instructions. If you separate them into separate functions, there's still a list of instructions. Functional is very different to this. So that's procedural programming. Next we have object-oriented programming. So separates code into separate objects, all with their own variables and methods. Promotes modularity, code reuse, and abstraction. So I'll just explain what objects are. So say, for example, we have this thing called a class, and we call it object. So what a class basically is, people tend to compare them with real-world objects, like, if you have, say you have a cat, and it has a name, and it has, some verbs like eat or sleep or something like this. The best way to understand, the simplest way to understand what a class is, it's a holder of variables and functions. That's all it is. It's a holder of variables and functions. And you can kind of make it so they act like, real world objects, but basically they're holders of variables and functions. So here we have variables, and here we have functions. Sometimes they're called methods when they're part of classes, but they're the same thing. Functions, methods, procedures, they're the same thing. And then we simply access them by, we create a object, which is just creating the class object. Then we can access the number, access the word, and then print the number. And so we can use this by using the dot and then that. That's basically what a class is. We can also have static things in classes. So I'll show you. Here we create static, public static, print something, and we use static. What static means is, say for example we want to use print number, we have to create object. We have to create object equals new. We have to create a copy of the object. With print something, we don't. We just simply say object.print something. So with a static, with static variables and static functions, you don't need a copy of them. Which is actually why if you look at the main function, so because C# is an object-oriented language, you have to use public static void in the actual main function because everything's in a class. But the reason I'm using C# is you can do all three paradigms in one language quite easily. So making this program in an object-oriented way. So let's make this program in an object-oriented way. So first we create a class called number array, and then we give it the array numbers, and we make it private. The reason we make it private is we don't want it to change. We only want it to be created when we create it. We don't want it to change. These are called access modifiers. If it's public, you can access it outside the class. If it's private, you can only access it inside the class. So here we have a constructor. So a constructor is basically a way to easily create a class. So the way we access these is we simply say number array equals new number array, and using new number array is a way to access the constructor. It's just a simple way, because then we can put the array into this and it will create it for us with those values. So we put this array into it and it will set the numbers array to that, and that's basically what a constructor does. So then we implement some functions. So we have calculate total, which is exactly the same as before. The only difference is we don't put in the numbers array as a parameter of the function, because it's part of the class already. We don't need to do that to access it. Yeah, I need to move it to the left because we're adding more functions. So we have create output, again exactly the same. The only difference is we're not putting numbers into the function. And then find and print average with total. And then simply all we do here is we say our array.find, and then we call this function, and it will print exactly the same thing. The advantage of doing this is it's kind of modular, so you don't need to actually understand what the methods are doing. You can just simply say array.that, and it does it for you. You can also create a copy of it if you want, so you can do this. And this will have different values and a different result, so it's a lot more modular. Alright, so just comparing how these look. So on the left, obviously, we have static, meaning it's not part of a class, and we also have numbers as parameters. If you look at the right, they're not static, and we don't have numbers as a parameter, because numbers is part of the number array. You don't need to send numbers. So there are a lot less parameters in the object-oriented way. So finally, we have functional programming. So functional programming tries to program similar to mathematical equations. All variables are immutable, and every function will always give the same output. Uses recursion and can be easier to find bugs. So I'll first explain what recursion is. So say we want to do something like this. We just want to print 1 to 10. That's all we want to do. The output of this will simply just show 1, 2, 3, all the way to 10. That's all we want to do. The problem with this is we have an I variable that changes. You can't do this in functional programming because variables are immutable. You can't have I and then change the value to I, because what we're doing is we create I, make it 1, make it 2, make it 3, we're changing a variable. So we could do it like this, which isn't, the problem with this is it's not scalable. You couldn't do it with 100 numbers. It's not very good to do this. So what we use is recursion. Now here we create a function, print numbers. First we need to give it some parameters, so we give it int I, which is basically the same as the for loop I, and then the max. The max is how far we want to go. Then we put those into the function. Then we need an if statement. So we need an if statement so it doesn't go forever. So this function is going to call itself. So it's going to go to print numbers, and print numbers is going to go to print numbers and make another copy of itself. If you don't have an if statement, it will basically go forever and create a Stack Overflow. Then we write I and then print numbers again, but changing the parameters. So here we have I plus 1, and then we put in the max. I'll show you how this works in practice. So first of all, we call print numbers. So this creates a copy of print numbers. And the parameters are 1 and 11. First we go if 1 is higher than or equal to 11. It's not, so we go down, we don't return, and then we go console, we write 1, and then we call print numbers again, and we add 1 to 1, which will be 2. So now we have 211. Is 211 higher than or equal to 11? No, okay, then write 2. And then we call this again, we print numbers again, and make it 3. And we do this all the way until I equals 11. So going all the way to when I equals 11, then it's true, so we write a new line and then return. And then we go back all the way through the functions until we go back to main, and then that's how recursion works. So initially we had this in the procedural way, so we have to change a few things. Most of it's fine actually, but what we need to change is calculate total. Because calculate total has a for loop. We can't use for loops. So we have to turn this into a recursive function. So we have the numbers array, we have I, and then we have the total. The total is how much we're counting. So we want to add the numbers together, so we have to send the total to the next function. So what we do is if I higher than equals to numbers.length, then return the total. Then we return calculate total. So we're basically returning the result of calling the function again. And then here we put in I plus 1, and then the total we add numbers.I. So say for example I starts at 0, so we'd add it's 192, so 1, so we'd say total starts at 0, we add 1 to the total, so it's because it's 1, numbers I is 1, And then we go to the next function, and then we add 9. So whatever I is. And then we add 1 to I each time. And this will do exactly the same as the for loop. And then just return the total when the number gets too high. Otherwise, it will go forever. And then we have to change this a bit, so we have to say numbers 0, 0. So the total, so it's like I is 0 and the total is 0 at the start. Next, we need to change the create output function, which is a bit weird because we're kind of returning a string builder, and we put in a string builder as well. This is where kind of functional programming kind of gets a bit weird. Like we're doing very weird stuff here. You see here we have sb.append numbers index, and that's basically what we're doing. We have a string builder where you can just add. It's like just a string you can add to. And we're adding this each time we send it to the next function. Because we're technically not changing a variable, we're creating a copy of the variable and sending that to another function, which is just gets a bit impractical sometimes, but it does have its advantages. Yeah, and then when we get to the end, we append the total and the average at the end, and then we need to change the bottom part a little bit. So we need to add this, create a SB, a string builder, and then sum of, and then put that into the function. But the rest is pretty much the same. All right, let's go over positives and negatives. Some of this can depend on opinion. So for procedural, one, it's simple, usually. I mean, you can make it complicated if you want, but usually it's quite simple, it's quite logical in a sequence. Easy to see the control flow, easy to optimize. So sometimes when you have object-oriented programming, you can kind of have abstract functions or polymorphism where you don't actually know what the function's doing. It's kind of hard to actually optimize that when the compiler goes through the code. So it's easier to optimize procedural code because you know what the code is doing most of the time. Easy to read, because yeah, it's pretty logical steps most of the time. Of course, you can make it unreadable if you want, it kind of depends. But the negatives can be less modular. I mean, often you can make it modular if you want, but it's generally less modular than object-oriented programming. Harder to group variables together, so it kind of depends what your definition of procedural versus object-oriented programming, because you could, in theory, use classes just to group things together. Because it's kind of impractical to have a list of, say for example, you have like a user class with a name, an age, and then a username or something like this. It's very hard to say like have a list of names, a list of usernames, it's easier to group them together. But it kind of depends what you define as object-oriented if you use classes. Is it still procedural if you use classes or structs to group things together? Depends on the person, I think. Less code reusability. Generally, you repeat yourself a bit more with procedural, but it's also simpler. OOP, object-oriented programming. So it's very modular. You can generally just insert things into functions, and it's fine. Reduces code repetition. So that generally is the idea, especially with things like inheritance, which I explain later. Allows access restrictions to prevent unexpected modification. So you can make things private, meaning you can only access them inside the class, which kind of can add some security features and things like this. Makes it easier to group variables and methods together. So the negatives can become a mess when you have interconnected classes. So sometimes people go overboard with this and have like a class for one specific thing. So say you have like, you want to add numbers together, well, let's have a class for adding. And then you want to subtract numbers, let's have a class for subtracting. And let's have these all interconnected and have a big web of it. Just gets really complicated in very large projects. So it can become very, very, very messy. Inheritance can create couplings. So I'll explain inheritance in a minute if you don't know what that is. So harder to optimize if access to detail is restricted. So often if you have like abstract or polymorphic code, it's less optimized because the program doesn't actually know what it's doing. It just kind of calls the function, doesn't actually know what it's doing. And then it's kind of overcomplicated. Like here are some keywords in C# that I basically never use, like abstract, seal, override, virtual, interface, protected. It's kind of like, what does all this mean? It's a lot more complicated compared to procedural. So here's what inheritance is. So here we create a user class and we give it name, age, username, password, and login, logout. So imagine you wanted to create another type of user, but you don't want to copy all this. So what you can do is you can create an admin class, and here we're going to extend user. So we use this colon user, and that will basically give it all of the properties that the user class has. and we give it something else, like, I don't know, edit name or whatever, just an example. So and then we can create it, and it will have a name and an age. So admin has a name and an age because it's copying from user. I mean, this is good in theory, but the problem with this is if you change anything in the user class, then it will also mean you have to change all the code that you've written in the admin class. So if you want to say admin1.name and you change the word name to something else, you'd have to change it everywhere you've written admin as well. So it creates coupling. You're dependent on the base class. There's also no limit to how much you use inheritance. So you could make inheritance to, say you make one class, then you make another class that links to that, another class that links to that, another class that links to that, and you can have like a chain of like 5 or 6 of these. And this is way too complicated. Okay, last we have positives and negatives of functional programming. So easier to debug. The main reason it's easy to debug is because everything is self-contained in a function. So you don't have to, if you look inside a function, you have an error, it's always in this function, it's not somewhere else. Like you don't have some global variable affecting it somewhere, you don't have something else. Everything is self-contained, so it's easier to debug. Very predictable, so you give it the same input, it gives the same output. Very modular. So the reason it's modular is because it doesn't matter what you put into the function, it will always give the same output, so it doesn't matter, there's no dependency. Easier to make threaded. As there are no global variables, there's no security risk generally of making things threaded. The disadvantages though, dependence on recursion can lead to memory and performance issues. So when you create a load of recursive functions, it can use a lot of memory depending on how much you use recursion, and can make things slower depending on what you're doing. Hard to learn and understand. If anyone's seen the syntax of functional languages, they generally look a lot more complicated and kind of hard to read, and also just harder to understand. Not being able to change data can be very impractical. Often what you need to do is, say for example you have like, say, a list of users, for example. What you normally do is you delete the old one and then create a new one to change it. So if you want to change some data, you delete the old entry and then just add a new one in that one. So it's kind of, you're creating everything again, which can be a bit tedious. And then harder to read. Generally, it's harder to read functional programming. And sometimes it's kind of hard to understand what's happening. It just takes a bit getting used to. So which should you use? I think the best approach usually is to not be dogmatic and use the best paradigm for each situation. So if you want to have some kind of mathematical function that is very predictable, easy to debug, then use a functional approach. If you want to have something modular, you can insert in any function to do something, say like a timer class, for example. Use object-oriented approach. If you want a simple programming that's kind of easy to follow, then use procedural. I think generally the best approach is to use all three, but let me know what you think. That's all for this video. Let me know if you have any questions. See you guys next time.